unwilling to spend a cent unless it benefited him directly. To him, money was more than just paper. It was his lifeline, his God, his everything. And because of that, he let my mother die.
David, please. The doctor said I need the surgery soon. They said if we wait too long, it would be worse.
How much is it?
They said around $30,000, but
He didn't even let her finish before he began screaming. 30,000? Do you think money grows on trees?
David, I'm dying.
Then why waste the money? If you're gonna end up dying, why waste money? That was how my father saw it. In his mind, cancer was a losing battle, so spending money on my mother's treatment was a waste. My father was the real definition of selfishness. Not the kind of selfishness where someone takes the last piece of cake without asking. No, his selfishness was something darker, something so rotten and vile that it had the power to destroy lives. And it did. The man cared for no one but himself. He never put anyone's needs before his own, not even his own family. I grew up watching him hoard money like a dragon sitting on a pile of gold, unwilling to spend a cent unless it benefited him directly. To him, money was more than just paper. It was his lifeline, his God, his everything. And because of that, he let my mother die.
David, please. The doctor said I need the surgery soon. They said if we wait too long, it would be worse.
How much is it?
They said around $30,000, but
He didn't even let her finish before he began screaming. 30,000? Do you think money grows on trees?
David, I'm dying.
Then why waste the money? If you're gonna end up dying, why waste money? That was how my father saw it. In his mind, cancer was a losing battle, so spending money on my mother's treatment was a waste. I was just 14 when this happened, listening to my mother beg for her life while my father remained completely unmoved. He refused to pay for the surgery, refused to even consider taking out a loan, refused to show an ounce of humanity toward the woman who had given him everything. She lasted another 8 months after that conversation. 8 months of pain, 8 months of suffering, 8 months of watching her body weaken, while my father acted as if she was already gone. He went to work every day and came back late, leaving me to care for my mom the entire time. Thankfully, my aunt occasionally sent me money to help. The day she died, my father didn't shed a single tear. Instead, he sat at the dining table, eating his usual breakfast as if nothing had happened. How can you sit there and eat? Mom just died. Well, I'm hungry. Besides, crying won't bring her back. Why would I waste my tears then? That was all he said. No sadness, no regret, nothing. After the funeral, he refused to spend any money on a proper burial. The cheapest coffin, the cheapest service, the cheapest plot in the cemetery. That's all she got. I remember standing by her grave, my hands clenched into fists, as I listened to my father complain about the cost of the headstone. $500 for a piece of stone? Unbelievable. She was your wife, Dad, and she's dead now. No need to spend money on someone who won't even use it. I wanted to punch him. I wanted to scream. But what good would it have done? My father wasn't human. He was a machine programmed to care about nothing but his wallet. And that was just the beginning. My father's selfishness extended far beyond my mother's death. It bled into every aspect of our lives. He made a good living, but you'd never know it by looking at our house. The furniture was old, the walls had cracks, and the fridge was always half empty. But that wasn't because we were poor. No, my father had money. He just didn't believe in spending it. He never bought me new clothes, even as I outgrew the ones I had. I went to school wearing shirts 2 sizes too small, shoes with holes in the soles, and a jacket so thin that winters felt like torture. Dad, I need new shoes. Your feet are just going to grow again. No point wasting money. Every meal was the same: rice, beans, and maybe some cheap canned meat if he was feeling generous. While my friends at school talked about the dinners their parents made, like steak, pasta, roast chicken, I sat there, pretending I wasn't hungry. But my father? He ate well. When he went out, he dined at fancy restaurants, eating meals that cost more than our entire week's groceries. I once caught him eating steak in his car while I sat inside, starving because we had nothing at home. He didn't even try to hide it. He just rolled down the window, chewing loudly, and said, "If you want steak, go make your own money." I was 14. And the worst part? He always acted like the victim. If I dared to ask for anything, He'd go on and on about how hard he worked, how he sacrificed so much, how ungrateful I was for wanting more. Do you think I'm made of money? You have a roof over your head, don't you? Clothes on your back? I should be the one complaining. You kids these days want everything handed to you. He loved saying that, as if I ever had anything handed to me, as if he hadn't spent years denying me the bare minimum while hoarding money like a dragon. He never took me to the doctor when I was sick, never bought me birthday presents, never gave me a single cent for school trips. Every penny that entered our house went straight into his bank account, locked away forever. And yet, when it came to himself, there were no limits. His car, brand new. His watch, expensive. His suits, tailored. He would rather buy himself another luxury item than spend a dime on me. By the time I was 16, I had given up. I stopped asking for things, stopped expecting him to ever care. The only thing I cared about was getting out. Because if I stayed, I knew I'd end up just like my mother, dying slowly while my father watched without a care in the world. And I refused to let that happen. The final straw came on my 17th birthday. Not that I was expecting anything from him, but this time, he took it a step further. Happy birthday. Now that you're 17, it's time you start paying rent. What? You're practically an adult. You live under my roof, you pay. That's how the real world works. I couldn't believe it. He wanted me to pay rent? Me? The kid he never spent a dime on? I didn't argue. I didn't even respond. I just nodded, walked into my room, and started packing. Because that was the moment I knew I was done. I was going to get out of that house. I was going to build a life for myself. And one day, I was going to have so much money that my father would regret every single time he refused to help me. I left my father behind. My best friend, Sam, took me in without a second thought. His parents were kind, almost too kind for someone like me who had grown so used to selfishness. They treated me like their own son. Hell, they even enrolled Sam and me in a football academy. It was obvious to anyone who watched us play that we had talent. Sam and I were good, but we didn't know just how good until we started getting noticed. It didn't take long before things changed. We were picked up by a few smaller clubs, and before we knew it, we were playing with the big boys. Our names started showing up everywhere. We were stars. At 22, I was already one of the top 10 richest young men in the country. People knew my name. People envied me. But with all that success came a reminder from my past that I couldn't outrun. Sam and I decided to visit home before my 23rd birthday. We went back to his house, and his parents were so happy. What I didn't expect to see was my father standing at the gate just a few days later. From the stories I had heard, he had dated a woman who realized how selfish he was and discovered he kept money at home. She eventually stole his money and ran away, leaving my dad far less wealthy than before. I see you've made something of yourself. You've got all this money, right? I'm sure you can spare a little. I looked at him, standing there with the same smug, entitled look he'd worn all my life. He had the nerve to act like he was owed something. I'm your father. You should be helping me instead of these gold diggers. I laughed at his foolishness. Gold diggers? If anyone should be called that, it's going to be you. They took me in and took care of me way better than you ever did. You're asking for my money after everything you put me through. You expect me to hand you money like you didn't watch my mother die? Like you didn't make me suffer for years? You're a joke. A pathetic joke. He had a surprised look on his face, like he didn't expect me to say such, but I didn't stop there. I'm not your son anymore. You lost that right the moment you decided I wasn't worth the effort. So get the hell out of my life. I could see the anger on his face when I said that, but instead of fighting back, he turned and walked away, tears welling in his eyes. The next time I saw him was on my birthday. I didn't hear from him, not that I expected anything. I realized you'll be returning soon and I probably might not see you again. Since you said I'm not your father anymore, I deserve payment for all the years I housed and fed you. He forgot about my birthday. What a joke of a father. Sam was getting agitated. You're not getting a single penny from me. You're a damn disgrace and a debtor. You owe me, Andrew. I didn't hear anything after that. Sam and I closed in on him, and for the first time in my life, I didn't hold back. We beat him senseless. He wasn't even able to put up a fight. We beat him up so badly that he almost crawled out of the house after we were done with him. He went to the cops, of course. Pathetic. He tried to paint himself as the victim, but when they called me in for questioning, I didn't even hesitate to lie on his miserable, swollen face. I don't know who he is. I've never seen him before. He's probably one of these fans who are stalkers. What do you want, sir? An autograph? I almost laughed at the shocked look on my father's face. Of course, the cops believed me. They were fans. They didn't even ask for proof. The cops sent him out of the station and took my autograph and pictures with me before I left. A week and a few days later, I saw him driving around in a new car. He must have taken out a huge loan to buy it. I laughed when I saw him parked across Sam's parents' house. He was showing off, thinking I'd be pained. You spent all that money just to look like someone you're not? You don't even fit in that car. How foolish. It only made him angrier. Sam and I traveled back a week later, but before we left, we hired some thugs to steal the car I had seen my dad driving. They parked it at the nearest airport, racking up a huge number of parking tickets. My dad eventually found the car, but had to pay all the parking fees. After that incident, I didn't hear anything from him. Weeks later, news came that he had been assaulted by the loan sharks he owed money to. Apparently, he had borrowed money to buy the car and couldn't repay them after the 1-month agreement. They kidnapped him and beat him until they broke his leg. I couldn't even pretend to care. I laughed. No sympathy, not a single ounce of it. He needed money to undergo surgery since the loan sharks had taken all his remaining savings and their car. The surgery could have fixed his damaged leg, and he gave my number to the doctor so they could call me. Hi, this is the doctor. Your dad needs surgery and he asked me to call you. Sorry, doctor. The only dad I have is perfectly fine. I don't know who you're talking about. Goodbye, I'm busy. I didn't need to know how paralyzed he was. I would help him, but I decided to take his behavior. I decided to be even more selfish than he was, but only toward him. Because he had no money, the hospital kicked him out, and he was on the streets with his damaged leg begging. He deserved to be paralyzed, ignored, and left to die like he did to my mother. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.